How you doing? How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've been researching for this interview a little bit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I gave you a bunch of likes and a bunch of views, so you're welcome for that.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, real quick, where are you located right now?
I'm currently in Houston, Texas. That's where home is.
Yeah, Houston, remote work,
Yeah, remote work.
remote. Nice, very nice. So I know. Well, if you want to give like a real brief introduction of, you know, who you are, what you've been up to, for everybody in the crowd that hasn't kept up with your YouTube videos.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, my name is Namanh. I studied computer science at Rice. I graduated in 2020, so right during the pandemic. I joined Bolt, which is a checkout company based out in San Francisco full time. I've actually been working there since I graduated, so it's been 2.5-ish years now. It'll be 3 years next June. And then this year, Bolt started the 4-day work week. So we worked Monday to Thursday and didn't have to work Fridays. And so with the newfound freedom, I was like, let me do something semi-productive. And I'd always been kind of curious about videography and video production. So January of this year, I started my YouTube channel, and that's been a lot of fun. So just creating a lot of content on there has been really interesting.
Yeah, you real quick. You said the 4-day work week, right? 4-day,
Yeah,
3-day
yeah,
work
yeah,
week.
that's right.
4-day. That's crazy. Like
4-day work week.
4-day. Yeah. Like how's that been going? Like, do you find yourself filling up your time with not just content creation, but also like side hobbies and whatnot? Or this is technically a side hobby, I'm guessing. But yeah, how's that been
Yeah,
going?
this takes up most of my other time. So I kind of view it as Monday to Thursday, I'm a software engineer. I work for Bolt, and then Fridays I kind of work for myself. So I try to wake up at about the same time. I try to do like a 6, 7, 8 hour work day, but it's just purely for me. So that could be anything from scripting a video, actually videoing, editing, thinking about the channel, all that kind of stuff. So it's like every Friday I work for myself, and the rest of the 4 days I work for my company.
Oh, very very nice. And you say that you work for yourself because I remember from one of your videos you said from the if you're lost, watch this video. You said that your
Mm.
entire like life shouldn't be your job. Do you think like that 4-day work week is kind of reflecting that in industry?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the really cool things with the 4-day work week is if you look at your average weekend, even as a college student, it's like really only you have, I guess college students, you don't have many errands, but like, once you graduate, you have to go to the grocery store, do laundry, do like all this errand stuff. And then you also have just like rest. And on a weekend with Saturday, Sunday, it's hard because on one day you're doing errands and on the next day you're getting ready for the next week. So you really only have like probably Friday night to like really go out, do whatever you want, sleep a little late, it's fine. You can wake up on Saturday. With the 4-day work week, you can do all your errands on Friday and then have all of Saturday to yourself. And then Sunday you can kind of gear up for the next week. And the really nice thing is no one else has a 4-day work week. So if on a Friday at like 1 p.m. I'm like, all right, I feel like grabbing lunch with someone. It's like I can't because everyone's
Mm.
working or doing their own thing. So I'm kind of forced to do stuff that I wouldn't normally want to do, and I procrastinate and like go do laundry, go get groceries, do all this stuff on Friday, and then I have all Friday night and then all of Saturday because I kind of got a head start to my weekend.
Yeah, very very nice. That's great. Do you see that like trend of like a 4-day work week like propagating to the other like big companies? And I know you work at a startup, so like, is that just like a startup only thing?
I think you could definitely transfer. I think a lot of European companies are trying it. Like Europe has really lax labor laws. Not lax, I guess it's like geared towards the employee, not the employer. And in Europe, they have very like segmented, like people have no friends at work, right? Their friends are their friends, work is just work. In the
Yeah.
US, it's like very blurred. Like a lot of our social
Mm.
life are with coworkers and stuff. But I could definitely see, I mean, remote work was crazy. Like no one ever expected that was going to be a thing. Like you can just log on whenever, log off whenever. No one's like
Mm.
time tracking you. So I
Mm.
think a lot of companies are trusting their employees more. And with that trust, you can start carving out other times for employees to kind of gain in their personal life, which I think has proven effects in the work life. It's like if an employee is happier, they're just going to perform better. This effect.
Mm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So real quick, we're gonna try to bring it back since we're at UCR. We're at a
Yeah,
college.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll probably just bring it back all the way to your college days. It was only like 2 years ago that you graduated, no?
Yeah.
So yeah, how was like that like for your bachelor's degree and onward for Rice University?
For sure. It was good. I think the one thing I did very differently is a lot of times in college they force you to plan out your entire life. Like I remember
Mm,
freshman first semester, like no, not even first week of freshman year, we had
mm,
this thing at Rice called the 4-year plan. Like you'd have some advisor like sit down and be like, all right, let's try to fit in all your classes. What are you interested in? And you'd have like this whole schedule, which wasn't in stone, but the idea was to make sure that you'd graduate on time, you kind of fit in everything you wanted and have a
mm,
discussion about what you wanted at college.
mm,
And I kind of winged all of it. Like I had no 4-year plan. I kind of went into college and I was like, I'm just going to take the hardest, most interesting classes I can, and I'm not going to worry too much about how it's going to work out. And that's kind of what I did. Like they would tell you, oh,
mm,
we don't recommend you take more than 15 credits. And I was like, I'll just take 18. If I don't like it, I'll drop the class. Like I had a very just kind of like try it and see how it goes
Amen.
mentality. And
Mm,
I think that was really, really awesome because it opened doors that I would not have expected were opened if I was just strictly stuck to a 4-year plan. And I think the one great example is
mm,
by my sophomore second semester, I realized that I had so many credits that I could just enroll in the master's program and finish that in my 4 years too. And I
mm,
would not have even known that would have existed if in my first semester I just took 15 credits every year. I kind of
mm,
took like some graduate classes here. I took this, I took that, and I looked and I was like, wait, I'm already like halfway done with the master's. I could just like combine a little bit, do some finessing, and probably get the
mm.
master's degree too. And
Yeah.
so what I'd recommend with a lot of students is, yeah, like don't pigeonhole yourself. Just like take whatever's interesting and it
Mm,
kind of works out. And just be
mm.
open to spontaneous decisions. Take whatever seems interesting, and usually it
Yeah.
works out.
Yeah, definitely. Because like that's even something that I feel like a lot more of our like freshmen and sophomores should know, just because UCR has a course plan for you, and like
Mhm.
everybody always just looks at their course plan. It's like, oh, I gotta like grab this class and I gotta push it back, and then or grab this class, push it forward, and but it's like still the same classes. So definitely what you're echoing for just do whatever the heck you want to do. I think that's definitely like something that a lot of people here should will resonate with. And so for you personally, I know one of your videos you said that if you could go back, you might have not even done a like a bachelor's degree, or you wouldn't even go to university in the first place. So
Yeah.
would you want to expand on that for us university students?
For sure. Yeah, I think it's like a weird statement to make because I
Mm,
wouldn't be who I am today if I had not gone to college. So it's like
mm,
I say I wouldn't go to college after have gone to college. And so now I'm
mm,
in a place where I have all the good things from college and I'm being like, I could have not gone. But then
mm,
maybe I wouldn't be here talking to you. Maybe I wouldn't have
mm,
started a YouTube channel. Maybe I wouldn't have had the confidence, like all this stuff. I think what I realized though, and I see this with a lot of things in life, it's I have a younger brother, right? So he gets the benefit of knowing all this wisdom of me experiencing
mm,
life, and then he's able to also kind of experience it himself. I think a lot of the things I learned in college, really, I learned from my internships.
mm,
And I think the reason is because this was pre-pandemic. I think now internships are in person again, but back then you'd fly out, you do on-site interviews, you'd go out for the summer in like Seattle and Microsoft. You have to pay rent, get an apartment, you have to like
mm.
cook dinner by yourself, you have to like show up to work, you got to commute, you got to like I don't know, take a shower,
Yeah,
dress up a
you
little
gotta
bit,
live,
like
adult.
yeah, you
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like I was a sophomore being forced to walk into Microsoft campus, sit with like older people, at a conference table, hold my own. And I feel like I grew a lot and I became an adult during my internships. And that's what a lot of people get out of college. It's like that
Mm,
4 years where you go from not really knowing stuff to kind of being ready to become an adult. And I think 98% of that experience for me was just in-person internships. And so
mm,
knowing everything I know now, if I could go back and I could do some like Waterloo program for where like for 1 year I'm just doing co-ops or something,
mm.
I might not get all that social benefit of college, but I think I would have gotten a lot of the other stuff that I learned.
Mm. I don't. Do you think these are the social benefits of college? Is that probably like your best takeaway from college, was just like the social and like the relationships that you built during that time?
Definitely. I mean, if you really think about it, like I barely went to class. Like I don't know if all of you go to class, but it's just a professor going over some slides. He sends out the recorded lecture. You can like look at it in your bed in pajamas. So it's like I
Mm,
didn't really get much going to lecture. A lot of what I got was going to TA sessions, doing projects, like spending late nights in the commons with my friends, like going
mm,
out and eating food at like 2 in the morning, hanging out on Friday nights. Like that's a lot of what I got out of college, was just me growing socially, being around people from different ethnicities,
mm,
religions, different majors. It's like you'll realize once you graduate, it's so hard to meet different people. Like once you're a software
mm,
engineer, especially if you go to San Francisco or some of these big tech cities, everyone's doing the same thing.
mm,
And in college, like not everyone is. You have like an English major, an anthropology major, like
mm,
an electrical engineer, a math major, a physics major. And it's like the first time where you're just surrounded by so many cool people. And I think that is honestly the best benefit. So I didn't really care about grades. I didn't really care about exams, homework. I just tried to have a lot of fun, meet a lot of people, and like kind of grow the horizons of my thinking, because I think that is the best long lasting benefit.
Definitely. A lot of people, again, freshmen, they are looking out and they're like, oh, I gotta do this, that. But it's like, look into your like immediate circle and like your dormitory is like, oh, that's where college is, you know. Definitely, I think that's a good thing to know. But for you personally, during your college career, did you ever take any like side jobs or like side projects with like a group of people and tried to expand on that? Because I know people here look towards our club kind of for, okay, like I need to get some more stuff out of CS than just like the academics was and
Mhm.
like the theory computer science side. Did you ever have something like that in at Rice?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the luckiest decisions I made was joining the IT help desk my
Mm,
freshman like first week. So
mm,
basically I like walked onto campus and I was like, all right, I want some pocket money. So I browsed the list of student jobs for the one that paid the most, and the IT help desk paid like whatever, 13 or $14 an hour. And
mm,
turns out a lot of really smart people think very, very similarly. So like all
mm,
these other really smart, ambitious, awesome freshmen were also trying to find the most well-paid job on campus. So it
mm,
turned out that I just happened to be in this melting pot of IT help desk. We're all like kind of nerdy, but also like extremely smart. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I just kind of sat there and just listened. Like
mm,
I have such fond memories. Like some of my closest friends today still are from the IT help desk, because there'd be upperclassmen who'd walk in and be like yelling about some professor, some project, and how he hated his teammates. And I'd just be like taking mental notes. I'd be
mm.
like, oh, okay, avoid comp 310, avoid this, avoid that. Or like, I
Yeah.
walk in and they're talking about like how to make a resume, and I was like, oh, it's probably some Microsoft template, and they're like, oh, we use LaTeX. I was like, what is
Mm.
LaTeX? I've never heard of this. I Google it. I say something like, Python compiles so slowly, and some like nerd is like, oh, it's interpreted, not compiled. And I'm like, oh, I
Mm.
didn't know that. Like,
I'm
take a
like,
little
okay,
note.
bro.
And so I feel like I learned a lot just being around really smart people. So the IT help desk was definitely one of the coolest things. I don't know if
Mm,
any of you can just go get that kind of job, but it is interesting to think that a lot of people think very similarly. So if you seek out
mm,
opportunities that are interesting to you, it's also very probable a lot of other people are doing the same thing, and you can like find these people and get to know them, and that can be really impactful. The
mm,
number two biggest thing I did was I just did a lot of hackathons for
mm-hmm.
fun, and I think hackathons were the way to apply a lot of the theory I learned with like just like real life software engineering is.
Mm,
You learn about JavaScript and Java and all that, but then you just download Express, you have this framework, you like hack it together, you get something
mm,
working. It's like really exhilarating. You learn a lot of really interesting skills. And the third thing I did that had nothing to do with technical was I just tried to do a lot of extracurriculars that scared me, like that were out of my
mm,
comfort zone. I did like a sketch comedy club that forced me to like, do improv on stage. And I was like not very good at it, but it was like such an interesting experience. I
mm.
joined an a cappella team and I could not sing, which I'm still very, very sad about. But I like learned how to beatbox randomly just so I could be on stage with them and like
Oh,
perform. And
nice.
that was such a cool experience. And I think doing a lot of stuff that isn't technical, I think also helps you grow in different ways. And so I definitely encourage people to do that.
Yeah, definitely like the just going beyond, the grade book and trying to just reach for it is definitely something that's super super inspiring. And I know everybody here because all the faces that I see in here, like they're the people that I've seen around and whatnot. So definitely they're resonating with that. And also just a quick shout out. You said hackathons. Just a quick side note. UCR hosts a couple hackathons and
Mm,
they're pretty fun. And we have a director right here. Raise your hand, Ashley. Yeah, she directs Rose
hey,
Hack. It's our woman centric hackathon. So
nice.
you guys should all go. I'm looking at everybody else, but yeah, definitely. And so you're also touching about on internships, and one of the videos that you saw or one of the videos I saw was you going up to people at CalHack and asking, "Oh, how much money are you making?" And I was watching, I was like, "Ooh, that's some crazy those are some crazy numbers." So internship season has already come. Maybe it has ended. We don't know yet. Maybe these hiring freezes ends it early. We don't know. But if somebody here, me included, like is still struggling to look for an internship and secure that like that offer, do you think that and nothing else comes out of it, do you think that there's something else that we could do to just make up for the fact that this summer is lost without an internship?
Yeah, for sure. So I think just build stuff, I
Mm,
think is like kind of the best advice I can give you. Hackathon's a great place to do it, but just build stuff for yourself. I think one of the best things you can do is have a personal website. I'm like very, very passionate about this. It's the first thing I did for myself. Just have an
mm,
internet presence. Like think about when someone Googles you, what do they see?
mm,
And it's a little scary, right? Like, I mean, I have a YouTube channel, so now I can't escape. I'm in the public eye. Like, who knows what I said in a video, and it might haunt me like 10 years from now. But like, come up with this, just buy a domain. It's like $10 a year, right? That's a coffee. It's a Starbucks coffee. Buy a domain. Um, Make something. I didn't. You don't have to HTML. Like my first one, I HTML, CSS, like wrote it all from scratch. Don't do that. Like make
mm,
a Notion website. I don't know. Use WordPress. Use Squarespace. Like pay someone to do it. Use a no code thing. But think about like how you appear to other people. If a recruiter is looking you up, what do they see? I guess I'm lucky. My name is super unique. Like how many Namanh with an H's Kapurs are there out there? But if they
mm,
look up someone like I don't know Samuel Johnson, there's like 10 people that are gonna pop up. Like what can you do to be first? How do you make your LinkedIn pop up, your GitHub? What can you put on that website? Like write about your hackathons, your portfolio projects. If there's something you did, like put a blog post about your summer internship. Talk about like all of you have so much to share. I feel like that's the thing I've learned through YouTube is I always thought like, what can I tell you that no one
mm,
else can, right? Like I'm not
mm,
special. I'm a brown software engineer. There's like hundreds of me. But it's like all of you live such unique lives that you can talk about like how'd you get into UCR? How did you pass the hardest class at UCR? How did you take exams? What is like the life of a UCR student? What advice can you share with other people? What can you kind of do with your brand? So when someone looks you up, they might not see a Microsoft or a Meta or like an Amazon internship, but if they look you up and they see a dope website and all this cool stuff you've built, then your street cred is already like way higher than someone just has a bullet point on their resume. So I would encourage you to just try to make a website, try to build a presence for yourself in whatever way that is. If you're a designer, use Dribble. If you're a software engineer, like make your GitHub dope. Like have a bunch of open source, make like a blackjack memory game in Python just because, right? Like
mm,
think about how you show yourself to the world. And I think that's usually what makes the biggest difference.
mm. Yeah, definitely. Even me personally, I was like, I don't even have a personal website. I'm a third year, so and like there's a bunch of people coming in. They're like, oh yeah, I already have a website. Yeah, so I was like, you're right on track. Good for you. Thank God. But yeah, definitely like inspirational words. Like, thank you so much for that. But to pivot real quick from like after university and graduating during the pandemic, what was that like for your class?
Yeah, it was very interesting because I don't know, like a lot of things we thought were fixed in the world were no longer fixed. Right. Like
Mm,
I had this whole, as much as I said I never planned anything, it was kind of forced. Like you just graduate, you move to San Francisco, you work a tech job, you get an apartment, like all this stuff was you don't really have a choice. Like in 2020, in 2019, if I graduated, could I have been like, actually, I'm just gonna stay at home? They'd be like, what? No, you're not. Like that, no, you have to move or you're fired.
mm,
And then suddenly it was kind of like you could work from anywhere. You could do it. Like I had so many choices I never had before, and a lot of that was really overwhelming. Luckily, the
mm,
first year of COVID, everything was shut down, so it's like you don't really have a choice. But then when stuff started opening up, it's like, wait, do I want to go to San Francisco? Do I want to go to Seattle? Maybe I want to work from New York. Maybe I should move to Austin. What if I go to Honolulu? Because why not? And
mm,
it's like now I had all these trade-offs. Like, do I want to be with a bunch of tech people? Do I want to give up the opportunity cost and go to Honolulu and I don't know, not be around tech people? I had so many options, which was a
mm,
lot. And I think it was really overwhelming and it makes it
mm,
feel like no answer is correct. You have FOMO in like all the regards, but it
mm,
also gave you a lot of freedom. And I'm a big proponent of I don't think work should be your entire life. So it gave
mm,
me the opportunity to be around family, be around friends, and carve out some of the other stuff. And YouTube would never have happened if COVID was not a thing, right? I would just be
mm,
9 to 5 in office, and then I'd just be tired on a Friday, and that would be it.
mm,
And so I think COVID gave us a lot of freedoms that allowed us to do things that we normally would not be able to do.
mm,
And I think seizing that opportunity is really valuable.
mm. Yeah, definitely. For coming out of like or during your entire uh college career, were you ever thinking about research at all? Because I know Rice University, very highly esteemed research institute, whatnot. Did that ever cross your mind, or was it always, yes, I'm gonna go into industry and I'm gonna work at a startup and then blah blah blah?
Yeah, for sure. So In high school, actually, I had done some research at, I don't know
Mm.
if you all know David Eagleman. He used to be at Baylor. He now is like a PBS brain documentary. I used to work in his lab for like over the summer, part time, unpaid. And I realized I did not enjoy it. And I think the big reason was that it was just so unguided. Like I just
Mm.
kind of showed up and there's nothing I had to do. It was kind of like if I just sat there and watched, I don't know, random YouTube videos for 8 hours and left, like no one would be like, no one would say anything. It
Mm.
was kind of like I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And they were happy to help me if I was motivated. But if I wasn't, it was very easy to slack off. And I did. I did nothing that summer. And so I was like, wait a second. Like I need some push. I don't know if I'm that much
Mm.
of a self-starter. And the other thing is I thought about like what research would kind of lead to for the rest of my life. And I didn't want to get a PhD. I didn't want to become a professor. I don't
Mm.
want to do any of those things. And so I was like, let me try to find a job that would be interesting enough to kind of fill the time, but then also give me the resources and the opportunities to pursue other things. And
Mm.
for that, I feel like there's no job like tech, right?
Mm.
There's no job that gives you that much freedom. If you're an investment banker, you're working 15 hours a day in person. That's it. Like you can't do anything else. With tech, you can truly work just 8 hours and then you can do whatever you want and you have enough
Mm.
money. You live in a really cool city. You have so many opportunities that a lot of people don't. And that's kind of what led me to tech. It was really interesting work. Like I got to learn something new every day, build really, really cool stuff. But it also, the opportunities and the lifestyle was something that gave me the opportunity to do other things too, which I really valued.
Mm. Yeah, that's that's sick. That's sick for sure. I think I love telling everybody this. Like, you are a computer science major. You are so fortunate. You like there our class is impacted. There's like barely anybody in here, and you made it. So the opportunity that you have to use your degree and live like a life that's super fulfilling and also like super independent and whatnot. Like like you're on the right track for sure. And the tech job is like is nice for like most people, hopefully, but it's also something that I hope you find like passion in for everybody that's in this room. And so after you graduated, I heard or I saw that you had like multiple offers lined up, even one from Microsoft, but you rejected the Microsoft offer. Why was that?
Yeah. So I interned at Microsoft summer
Mm.
2018. So that was my sophomore summer. It was awesome. Probably still the best summer of my life in person in Seattle. Finally doesn't rain. It's like the only 3 months in Seattle it doesn't rain, right? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weather. A company like Microsoft. And then, I mean, they invented the internship, right? So it was
Mm.
like as much food as you could eat, so many events every day. It was just a lot of fun, but I didn't do anything. Like I just enjoyed it. I had a great time. And I remember coming back to school and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to code. Like I didn't write any code. I didn't get it better. I just had a lot of fun. And I was like,
Mm.
if I go back, I don't know. I feel like an imposter. There's no way I can be a full-time software engineer. Like I did nothing. So then I forced myself to intern at a startup at Gusto in San Francisco, where
Mm.
there's just like three people, right? Like three people on my team on my little project. So if I didn't do work, it was very evident. So I worked really hard that summer. I wrote a lot of code and I was like, all right, actually, I can do this. It's not that
Mm.
hard. And then because I love this startup so much, graduating, I decided I want to work somewhere much, much smaller. And this was
Mm.
back in the day of, Plaid, Brex, Stripe,
Mm.
Ramp, like all these fintech companies, Robinhood, like that was really, really cool. Like fintech was popping. And I knew I wanted to be somewhere small, but not small enough where it was some like YC startup with like college students and they had no idea what they were doing. I
Mm.
wanted to go somewhere where people actually knew what they were doing and there was enough smart people so I could actually learn.
Mm.
Um, and I think payments is really, really interesting because it's something we use every day. Like we all swipe our credit card, but we have no idea what happens right after, right?
Mm.
Like when you see a pending charge on your bank, like what's actually
Mm.
happening when that
Mm.
charge gets posted? What's the difference, right? There's like four payment verbs. There's authorize and then capture. So like when your funds are authorized, you see them as hold, and then when they're finally captured, you see them posted in your bank account. Like all these little things are so easy.
Mm.
And so I was like, what if I could work on the back end of a system that worked with money? I could like understand all this stuff. And I feel like that'd be a superpower. Like if I understood how money worked, I could go take that skills and do whatever I want with it. And so Bolt was kind of at the intersection of all of this. It was about 30 people when I joined. It was in fintech and I was going to be on the payments team. So it's kind of the intersection of my interests and the company size that I wanted.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. Was there anything else specific that drew you into like the small startup type of environment? Was like the big company, because you worked at a big company, was that just like super overwhelming, or maybe even just like you wanted to be a bigger cog in a machine type?
Yeah, it was a combination of a multitude of factors. I think one thing is when a company's smaller, you just get to know more people.
Mm,
And this was, again, I was recruiting pre-COVID. So the idea of being in an office where I could see every single person in the company, we could all go out for a happy hour, go to dinner, go to an offsite retreat, and all fit in one Airbnb house was like really cool because I
mm,
could get to know all these people. They could be part of my social life. It would just be young. It would be fun to be young, working and living in San Francisco with a bunch of coworkers of mine. So that was
mm,
definitely one. Second was you just have way bigger impact and you can move much faster. There's not much red tape. You don't have to get approval up and down the chain. You can just be like, I want to fix this. And everyone's like, all right, go do it. And you just go do it. And you're like,
mm,
that's it. Right. So you kind of
mm,
learn by doing. That was number two. And then third was this idea that it's very easy to get complacent when you go to a big company. And I remember at my
mm,
internship, there was a bunch of like, older people who at my like final dinner, they were basically like, look, we came here just wanting to be here for 1 or 2 years and go to a startup or start our own thing. But then that direct deposit twice a month was just too nice. Microsoft stock in the last, I guess now the market has crashed, but at least 2021, 2020, it was on a 5-year bull run. I mean, that stock like 5x. So if you're sitting
mm,
there on Microsoft stock, you now have a kid, you got to pay expenses. Like you're not going to leave and go take huge risk, right? Like it's comfortable.
mm,
And I knew I could always go back to somewhere like a Microsoft or I mean, Google. All these interviews are pretty hard, but if if you elite code enough or whatever, you can go there. You can go
mm,
back. But it's much harder as you get older to try something new. And so I
mm,
kind of forced myself to start small first. And if it
mm.
didn't work out, I could always go somewhere bigger later.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big grind right now for everybody is like, oh, I want to work at a FAANG company, blah 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 blah. And I was like, you gotta, I hope you make it, but the small companies too. I got you. They got you 100%.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
for sure. And people forget that, I mean, there's FAANG and then there's like 5-person startup, but then there's so many companies that are just like 2,000 people
Mm,
that will give you that FAANG experience, but it will still be small enough where you can do a lot of stuff. They're like the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Databricks, I mean, Stripe is pretty big now, but bunch of Airbnb, bunch of companies that are bigger, but
mm,
not that big. And
yeah.
so there's like a lot more options right in the middle that people forget about. There's a huge difference between a Series A, B, C, D company. Each
Mm,
of those will give you a very, very unique experience. And of
yeah.
course, the more later stage you go, the less risk you're taking.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any brewing startups in your brain right now, or is it
Oh,
still
any
just Bolt?
any companies I want to start or go to?
Yeah, would you?
Hmm. I don't know. I think a lot about kind of like differences in experiences. And I feel
Mm,
like the experience I got at Bolt was I joined when they were Series B, like about 30, 40 engineers.
mm,
And then we had like an insane growth trajectory. And then, money kind of dried out and then we had layoffs. So I've kind of seen it all. I've seen like very small through the hardships of growing really big.
mm,
And so now kind of what I'd be interested in learning more about is like before that 30, like how do you get to 30 engineers? Like how do you get to somewhere that has product market fit? So that might be like a seed or Series A,
mm,
or like the other side, like how do you grow really, really
mm,
fast? Because right now I think Bolt is like right below that. So maybe the
mm,
next thing could be like purposely going to a Series D or E startup that's like just pre-IPO. It's like how do you
mm.
kind of
Scale.
dominate the world? Yeah, how do you
Yeah.
scale and do like really cool stuff? And then the other idea is just go somewhere huge
Mm,
and see like how does it work? How does it feel to work at really, really big scale? But no plans for now. I think I'm enjoying Bolt a lot. One of the cool things that's starting at a company that's small is that it changes every year. So
mm,
it's like I started and I got some experience. Then a year later, I was in like a different company again, even though it had the same name.
mm.
And so I'm gonna stay at Bolt until I no longer feel like it's changing. But for now it is, and I've gotten a lot of cool responsibilities and got to own a lot of stuff that I've been very excited about.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. For like going into Bolt, did you have any like like pre knowledge of like transactions and payments and whatnot? Like, did you like have this? Okay, that's not that's what I'm gonna say. Because like a bunch of people think like, oh, I don't know enough about XYZ to join like A. but what's your take on like the learning on the spot, like learning as you go type of like workflow?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's the only way. I
Mm,
think you can of course have expertise. I'm sure there's someone who's going to work at in checkout for 10 years and then be like an expert in it. But
Mm,
for the most part, like you can understand a lot of this stuff just by doing it. Same with languages. People obsess over like which language should I be good at? It's like
mm,
languages change every year. There's
mm,
frameworks that come out every single year.
mm,
And I think a lot of what computer science is just learning how to learn, like being
mm.
good at being thrown into something and just figuring it out, like just knowing what to search on Stack Overflow, hacking some stuff together and getting it to work, I think is honestly 99% of the job. So I think you don't have to know anything technical and you don't have to know anything non-technical either. I think you can both definitely learn those at the job.
Yeah, definitely like the get just throw yourself into the fire like drinking from like the was it the fire hydrant
Hmm.
that sort of like mantra. I think that's definitely the best way to go. For you, uh you also advocate the CS50 course on online, and
Mm.
I'm actually somebody that took that course before like during COVID. So I was going through COVID and I was like I'm going into CS and I have like zero CS knowledge. I didn't even take no AP classes. I know you took like a couple of classes during high school. Like I know a lot of us are just like raw pretty much, like no CS at all. Like, do you want to reiterate how much you actually believe in that course for people here that feel like they're kind of behind in their knowledge for computer science?
For sure. So one disclaimer, I've never actually fully taken the course, but it is something that has been like recommended and I've kind of seen some of a couple of videos. I think I watched the first one entirely.
Hmm.
And it's insane how good the professor is. Like, I don't know if like some other class comes up with CS50 and the curriculum is the exact same, I'd still say take it if it's free. But there's just
Hmm.
something about how well the professor talks about stuff. He like really, it's like you're a 5 year old. And I think
Hmm.
one of the things I've learned in my life is you can tell when someone's smart when they can explain something really complicated as if you were a 5 year old, like with very, very simple English jargon. And that's what he does. He starts the course from first principles and he builds on it. And so you could walk in with no understanding and he'll connect it to real life stuff you have.
Hmm.
And I think there's no better way to learn than that. And it's 100% free. It's literally recorded. You can fast forward, go back and forth as much as you want, but don't think it's a breeze. Like some of those assignments are tough,
Hmm.
but that's what makes you better. And so if anyone has time and wants to try something new, you should definitely take it.
Yeah, I actually used one of the analogies before for like binary search. He talks about
Mm,
like a phone book, and like the other day I was like, oh, this is how you do
mm,
binary search. It's just a phone book, and people were like, oh, that makes so much sense. I was like, credit to CS 150. Love the man. Yeah,
for sure.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Uh, Another thing, you're talking about making your own projects. You always advocate for like, oh, just do like a project your own, and you talk about like a stateful counter, or
Mm.
stateful like yeah, stateful counter like website. Is there any other like hack project that you think is like, oh, this is like the project to do to put on your resume to prove that you have like control over the full stack?
Yeah. So I think any CRUD app is the
Mm,
way to go. Like CRUD just stands for create, read, update, delete, which is like most of what basic applications are. If you think about a front end, right? Like a stateful counter is a really good example because you have to like
mm,
click the plus button or the minus button and you see something
mm,
happen and you're saving that to some database and the backend's like doing some stuff. But I think if you're interested in full stack, like just build something and then figure out a way to show it. That could be literally anything. You could
mm.
build, I don't know, like you could build like an Excel clone or like actually that would be kind of hard. Excel is like recursive. This was actually an interview question I got once if you had to
Cool.
build Excel. But I'm trying to think like anything that you could show on the front end, like create
Mm,
like a card game engine on the back end, right? Like
mm,
how do you play with an X number of players? How do you play cards? How do you determine who wins? And the front
mm,
end is just how do you show that? The front end could literally be like the terminal, right? That could be a front end. It could be a literal website you can go to like through React or whatnot. But unless you want to be a front end developer, I feel like a lot of the complexity is in the back end. And so spend a lot of time just crafting some sort of engine for whatever you think is interesting. And the front end can just be the way you show it.
mm.
But don't worry too much about CSS. Don't make it look pretty. Just make it usable and then focus on the back end that actually does all this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Just get something out there. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So honestly, that's all I have on my little piece of paper. I know we have a good amount of people that are in the crowd right now. If anybody wants to raise their hand, do a shout out real quick. Yeah, you want to come up here? You want to say hi? Yeah, what's up? Hold on. I'm gonna transition over here. What's up? Yeah, questions, Q&A, guys.
How do you oh okay. How do you deal with the lot of like information that like CS is like a very broad field. So how do you deal with like learning and retaining all that? Like I know you don't have to like memorize so much, but how do you deal with like retention of a lot of information? It's one thing I was wondering.
Retention of a lot of information. So I think one thing that has helped me is I only try to so I think one thing is like truly understanding what you're doing rather than like memorizing whatever it is. Like a great example, like for example, binary search. Instead of memorizing exactly how their algorithm works, try to understand what it does. And once you understand what it does, then you should be able to recreate it. A really cool exercise, and this is actually one of my favorite interviews that I ever did, was they just showed me a Wikipedia page and they were like, here's some algorithm that you have no idea. Actually, I did. It was just like the uh, K means like clustering algorithm. And they were like, we don't expect you to memorize what it is. Like, why would you do that? Here's a Wikipedia page that'll tell you everything you need to know. The algorithm pseudocode is literally written out here. Just implement in whatever language you want. And so I think understanding that a lot of information is out there, you just have to understand how to use it and deal with it. And I think something that's really helped me is I will just keep track of a lot of the stuff I've done again and again. Like if I go to a hackathon and I have to build like a user sign up flow and do basic authentication, I'll like remember kind of how to do that. Or if I'm implementing some like class hierarchy or whatever, and I learned about the singleton design pattern, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. That's when you should use it. I won't memorize what singleton does. I'll just be like, all right, back of your mind, just remember the word singleton. And then anytime you need it, you can just Google it. There's like people that can talk about this way better. I think some people use Notion as their second brain and they have like all this like complex ways of like knowing everything. I don't do that. I don't think you need to. I think just getting really good at understanding how to search things on Google, but then also remembering through past experience things that you worked on, and then just being really good at reading something and being able to implement it is usually all the basic things you need to know to be successful, at least personally.
Thank you.
Of course.
We got one in the back, in the back.
Hi, so I know that you mentioned how you worked at like a big, or you interned at a big tech company, and also you have experience now at a startup. I've heard from some people who've like interned at big tech companies, since working at a tech company is kind of like super glorified. It's kind of like the end goal of a lot of students. That's like their dream. But then they get a little bit of a shock when they go to these big tech companies and the work is monotonous, or they're writing code for something that they don't care about. Have you experienced like similar feelings, or how passionate are you about the work that you have to do?
For sure. So I think passion is for two things. You can be passionate about the stuff you're personally building from like a selfish, just technical standpoint, and then you can be passionate about how that's affecting other people. And I think those are actually two very different things. You can work for a company that's changing lives, but you could be working on something you don't enjoy. And you could also have the opposite, where you're working for a company you hate, but you're working on something that fulfills you every single day. And I think finding both is extremely, extremely difficult. Often what you'll find is that you'll have one but not the other, and then soon you'll have the other but not the first. And that's just kind of a balance you're gonna have to find in life. I think personally it's much easier to find technical things you're passionate about, and not so much that the company is doing insanely good things. Because if you think about most companies out there, like really the biggest problem today is probably climate change. Like how many companies are actually fighting that? Like I'm working for Bolt, which is like a checkout e-commerce company. Like sure, Microsoft might be changing lives, but if you're on the Word team working on some like ribbons color, like you're technically impacting 1 billion people, but like I don't know, personally it's not like the most fulfilling work. And so I think early in your career, what I'd recommend is finding technical things you're passionate about, really getting to understand them, working really hard, being really fulfilled by really hard things. And then once you get good at those things, then you can start picking companies that are truly making a difference. And then you yourself in a position that can really impact that. Because the truth is, when you're right out of college, there's not much you know and there's not much you can do. So oftentimes you're just like doing monotonous work. But then as you get better and know more things, then you are in a place where you can truly start to make a difference. And so I would love to tell you that it's very easy to find both together, but in my personal experience, it's really difficult. I think just strive to learn a lot, and then soon opportunities will open where you can truly then start to make a difference.
Thank you.
Yes, we have a question right next.
Hello, hello. So I watched your video about like the like interns, like how much they make, and that kind of like inspired me. So, like one question I have is like, what's the process for you like for like getting those internships? Has it been like connections, or has it been just like through your own like personal website? And then how was that for you? Like how many applications did you apply to? And like how many responses did you get back? Like how was that for you?
For sure. So I actually have two videos on this that if you're interested, you can go check out. I think one of them is called like why I rejected Microsoft and Facebook internship offer, something like that. And then the other one's called the entire guide to software engineering recruiting. So that one's like literally a 15-minute free video you can go watch that documents everything I know about recruiting for internships and full-time tech jobs. And I kind of put down everything I wish I had known in that. So check it out if you're interested. I think the TLDR is that it's just a numbers game. That's all it is. Like it has nothing to do with your self-worth. And because it's a numbers game, just know that everyone's playing the numbers game, right? So you can always apply online and then not hear back for 3 months and just be like, wow, I hate this company. But the truth is like they're getting 100,000 applicants. So what can you do to make your chances just a little bit better? Does that mean emailing me right after this interview and being like, Namanh, loved your talk, heard you work at Bolt. Are there any openings? Can you refer me? Boom. You're like, how many people in the auditorium? Like, I don't know, 30, 40 people. So now you're like 40 out of, I don't know how many applicants Bolt gets. And I just have to put in a good word and you're like at the top of the stack. That could mean going to the career fair, getting to know the recruiter, making small talk, maybe waiting until they're packing up for the evening, just going up and being like, hey, I know there's a big rush, just wanted to say hi again. Namanh, by the way, here's my resume if if you're interested, whatever. Trying to figure out interesting ways to have that human connection and kind of skip a lot of the black hole, which is like all these numbers. It's something that really helped me. So in one of the videos, I talk about how I got to know the Microsoft recruiter over many events at Rice. And then I emailed him and then kind of started the whole process and whatnot. So I would encourage you to use your connections, use your network, but think out of the box and think about how you can apply some human touch to this process that is unfortunately very inhumane. But like we're people, right? And people know other people, and people are ultimately the people that are going to read your resumes and make hiring decisions. And just remember that if you can reach out and connect to someone person to person, your chances are usually much, much better.
Thank you.
And real quick, I just want to like bounce off of that because like the person that I've been in contact with for like an internship was a dude that sat next to me in an airplane because I just randomly tapped him and asked him, "Hi, what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm the manager of a software team." And I was like, "Wow, I'm a third-year computer science major. What a coincidence." And then we've been talking ever since. So definitely talk to people for sure. And we also have another question. Are you question? No? Okay. Do you have any other? Yes, David.
Oh yeah, hi, it's David again. So over the past like quarter, I've kind of been in charge of like the ACM YouTube channel and stuff. I kind of had like a lot of fun, like editing all the videos and stuff. Even though like some of them, like there's like a couple of videos I had a hard time editing a bit, where I was like full complete frustration. And I'm just like kind of curious about like, can you give tips for like anyone really who's actually interested in being like like an SW YouTuber, like on YouTube? Like, do you have any tips on like, how to be a successful one at that?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I'm like, I know everything. And I think a lot of times content is very much like startups, right? There's like product market fit, which is carving out some niche or having some audience. The comments are like your user feedback. I guess you can use like growth tactics and like thumbnails and whatnot. It is kind of like starting a company, right? You have to carve out your niche. I think one thing that really helped me is not caring so much about that. Like I would love to tell you when I started the channel, I had this like vision of I had this like roadmap of 15 videos. I think the most important thing is just doing. And I have a video on this too that I talk about. I think everything in life is very simple. Like the formula to success in anything you want to do is very simple. And I think the easiest example to understand is being fit. Like you want 6-pack abs, it's easy, right? You just go to the gym and eat healthy. That's it. You can pay a personal trainer, you can buy a course, you can have someone like teach you the magic formula, but it's not. Like you want to make money in the stock market, buy index funds and don't sell. Wait 50 years and you'll be rich. Simple. But the reason most people don't succeed is not because they don't know the formula, it's just because doing it is so difficult. And so that's a long-winded way of saying, if you want to be successful in anything, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Reels, I don't know, like raising your puppy, it's just consistency. Like you just have to give them a treat every time they sit. That's it. So if you want to start a YouTube channel, I mean, you can start like I did, just with a phone. I mean, that's it. The phone until video, actually, until the very last video, it was all phone. And all you have to do is be consistent. And I think the two things that really helped me was being consistent and trying to make every video 1% better than the last one. So I started off knowing nothing. And as I made videos, I learned just a little bit more every time until I could make a video that was like 100 times better than my first one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any last minute questions from anybody? Oh, yes, sir.
So you're a software engineer, you have a YouTube channel, right? You probably post content like, I don't know, every week or something, or I'm not sure your posting schedule, but how do you stay motivated to keep coming up with content while also maintaining your job and not getting burnt out from that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm lucky in that I get Fridays off just to myself. And so Fridays have kind of been the day when I pursue all my creative stuff. But two is like a very personal reason. It's that like it just makes me feel so alive. And I think one thing that sucks with COVID and not being in person is you don't get that people interaction. And a lot of the work I do is on Zoom and Slack and just like in a little hole in a dark room by myself, like the stereotypical software engineer. And I kind of crave that personal interaction. And a lot of my pivot in my content is just going out and meeting a lot of people. So a lot of the content initially was like Professor Namanh. I'd like teach you stuff. And I was like, I barely know what I'm talking about. Like I'm so young. Like I don't know how to do stuff. So I started thinking about how can I just go interact with a lot of people, do stuff like this, interact with you, go out, ask people questions, and just have fun while doing it. And I feel very, very alive in those moments. And I think part of what brings me a lot of fulfillment is like human connection. I think content is a really, really cool way to do that because at the end of the day, the best content is just telling stories. And I want to grow into becoming a much better storyteller than I am today. And that's kind of what keeps me motivated.
Thank you.
And we're probably at the end of our time here because we have people got classes. Want sad. But yeah, do you have any last remarks for everybody before they leave, Namanh?
Nothing much, probably just very cliche. Like, I don't know, don't take life so seriously. I think everyone you talk to that's graduated college will probably tell you the same thing. Like at the end of the day, grades don't matter. It's just like the people you meet and the things you do. So have a lot of fun and really think about like what makes you feel the most alive. And I think that's usually the stuff you want to do when you graduate. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Thank you. Quick round of applause for Namanh.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And I'll make my closing remarks. We don't really need slides for that, but thank you. That's probably it for our club for this quarter. We might do some last stuff, but next quarter is gonna be our elections. So if you have any thoughts of coming over and doing whatever I'm doing, please apply. Thank you. But thank you for making this a fun quarter, guys. Appreciate every one of you for coming out. But that's about it. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.